Okay. I think we're going on now. I got to be careful what I say. All right. So you guys hear me okay? Everything good? I think we're all teed up. You got your notes ready to go. All right. George, let's take this thing live. Hey, property management friends. Welcome to This Week in Property Management. I'm your host, Jeremy Pound from RentScale. Today, we have a special episode as the coaching team is freshly back from 2 national conferences. The annual meetup of the largest franchise in the industry, followed quickly by the NARPM National Convention in Atlanta. Now, we're going to spend most of today talking about our key takeaways from the time that we spent with so many of you in the industry, both vendors and property management entrepreneurs. Now, we really came back with what I believe is a great pulse check on where the industry is and where it's going. And we want to give you a raw download of everything we learned and heard at those conferences. Now, some of it was expected, but a lot of what we learned was really surprising. And we'd love to get you involved by commenting and letting us know what you learned at the event. So if you're online live, we'd love to hear from you. But first, I do want to share something that I've been thinking about and that I think you should be thinking about, and it should be in all of our minds this week in PM. So have you taken a moment to really think about how much the residential real estate industry and market has shifted these last 2 years? Now, I almost feel like we have to throw out the standard playbook that we've used for decades about who will rent, who will buy, how much they'll pay, and what the standard in housing is and is becoming in America. Now, if you didn't know, mortgage rates reached a 23-year high last week. The qualifying yearly income for a median priced house with a 30-year fixed mortgage in 2020 was around $50,000 a year. That was pre-COVID. Now, it's more than $107,000 per year, according to the National Association of Realtors. And if you ask Redfin, it's actually about $10,000 more at $117,000 a year. Now, I'm going to link to this article in the comments below because I think it's got a great amount of information that we should all be thinking about. But the real trend I'm seeing is that in our nation, here in the United States, where the American dream has really been to own a home for more than a century, is really going to start transforming and forcing us into becoming a renter nation. Now, at the current 8% mortgage rate, which payments are basically amounting to about 38% of the median income just to pay your mortgage. Now, it's before all of the other costs of owning a home. So as I've been saying for a while the largest population in the US history, the millennials, are reaching the age where they're becoming peak household formation. Now, many of these millennials have spent years, if not a decade, living their entire adult lives in basically a large multifamily complex or even living at home. Now, as they start to build families, we can just imagine that the demand for single family houses, now talking about single family homes like 4 walls and a backyard, the white picket fence, everything we think about, the demand for that is going to become insatiably high. Now, what does that mean for your business and for your clients? Are you having these conversations with them? Because if they own a home, it's an amazing asset that they can be monetizing. And because of all of these trends, the demand is skyrocketing for single family homes. Meanwhile, the transactional real estate market has essentially grinded to a standstill because of the mortgage rates and the fact that nobody's selling. So what we're seeing here at RentScale is that more accidental landlords than ever before are calling into our clients and asking, what are our options with our single family home, with our 3 or 4% mortgage that we don't feel like we can go out there and sell in this new higher for longer interest rate environment? Now, one idea that the team has been talking about, we see a lot of clients are using, is that we're bouncing around the idea to these new accidental landlords of recommending an 18 or a 24-month lease to make sure your clients are locked in for a long-term client and they don't find themselves back on the market at a less than ideal time to either sell or re-rent their home. So I hope you're thinking about the same thing. And if not, That's an idea for you to consider. So what are you guys seeing this week in PM? I'd love to hear about it in the comments. Now, we're live every other Thursday, and so I want to remind you to make sure that you have subscribed to the channels. We're live on Facebook, we're live on LinkedIn and YouTube. Just look for Strategic PM, and you guys can always comment along, and we'd love to share what you guys are seeing live on the show. Now, let's get to our featured segment and bring in the RentScale coaches to hear about what we learned at the national conferences. But just for a quick minute, first, I want to hear a quick word from our sponsor.
Hi there. Did you know that RentScale hosts one of the largest communities of property management sales professionals in North America? Well, my name is Reese Register, and I'm actually a previous BDM and currently a scale coach here at RentScale. We provide over 20 hours monthly of teaching and training and accountability to make sure that our BDMs are supercharging their sales business through inbound, outbound, and allbound. So if you're interested in learning more about supercharging your business, go over to rentscale.com. We'll be glad to schedule a consult and see how we can help you transform your business today.
All right, guys, I'd like to introduce you to a core segment of the RentScale coaching team. I have Jen, Reese, and Jason with me here today. Guys, you guys ready to share everything you learned the last 2 weeks?
Absolutely.
All right, so let's jump in. I'm gonna turn the stage over to you guys. But one thing I really want to share, I've got my notes here. Talked to our good friend Mr. Phil Owen today, who really is in charge at the NARPM events of first-time attendees. He throws a great party every year. Anybody who's new to a NARPM event. This is what I learned, guys. We had over 230 first-time attendees that came to the National NARPM concert. That's not concert, conference. It's the first time that they've ever been to a national conference. And one thing that I can share also is that Second Nature invited us to be a part of this amazing thing called the hosted experience for anybody who had never been to a NARPM conference before. And we actually launched a campaign. If they met with Second Nature, RentScale, Lead Simple, and Pet Screening, we'd actually give them a free ticket to the event and a $1,000 voucher. Now, not everybody that met with us actually took us up on it, but I had about 20 meetings with people who had never been to a NARPM national conference, and it was just really illuminating. I met a ton of people who essentially were property managers, just like we're used to. We met people that had their own multifamily portfolios that were looking to get into property management. I met a handful of what we've seen, which is short-term property managers that are looking to get into long-term. And it was just amazing to see how many people don't know about this amazing community that we have. So that's my biggest takeaway, kind of leading into it. I'd love to hear from you guys. What were your biggest takeaways from the national conference?
Yeah, Jeremy, I think, first of all, this event and all of the NARPM events are just, first, there's so much fun. Everybody gets together. We get to see all of our friends. There is so much entrepreneurial spirit and so much vision and excitement in the room. It's just such a great time to be at these events. As we experienced a lot of people coming around to our booths, but also walking the conference, I think my biggest takeaway was that so many people were buzzing about acquisitions, whether they had just acquired a property management company and were figuring out how to grow, or whether they were looking to position their business so that they looked attractive to those acquiring. There were so many conversations around acquisitions. Reese, what did you see?
Yeah, it was a lot of that is conversation as well. And it was just interesting going from, do I want to grow? Am I happy where I'm at? Or is it a position where maybe it's time to sell? Maybe it's time to capitalize on all this excitement on acquiring companies. So it was definitely something at the dinner conversation that we had. Lot of interesting different ways to go about it as well, because there's a lot of players out there now that are looking to acquire companies, and they use some different methods. So the conversation around that on what's going to be the best avenue was definitely pretty interesting. I know, Jason, that was something that we talked about as well. What was your take on it?
Yeah, it was interesting. I remember one specific conversation I had with someone that came by our booth that basically was sharing that they were looking to sell in the next 12 to 18 months. And as I began to engage just in what she was doing to get ready for that, she was honestly not quite sure of what needed to happen. What are the right steps? What are the right things to begin to do for a preparation of a transition like that? And that led us into just a conversation of talking about how important it is to really have an established sales process, a sales blue book, and potentially a salesperson already in place so that you look more appetite, you have more, what's the word I'm looking for? Desire for that acquisition, because you've already taken care of one of the biggest elements of the business, which is growth. And if you have a track record of growth, that's also going to make it look a lot better from an acquisition standpoint. If you've been able to show consistent month over month door growth, it's going to be an important thing that someone's looking at when they're looking at potentially acquiring the organization. So that was a big one that she said she had never really considered about. She never had a formal sales process, and she'd been the only salesperson working in her organization.
Jason, I love that. And kind of in a different angle from that, I think that I ran into someone at the booth who had just acquired a 400 door property company, and he wanted to grow to 1,000 doors in the next 36 months. And part of the reason he acquired the company was because he saw growth. That was the biggest thing. He got a BDM with this company, and he is now looking to train that BDM and make sure that they've got that playbook. But it's just really interesting how people were kind of positioning themselves to either prepare to sell, be more attractive to people who are buying or who had just bought and were interested in leveling up after their purchase.
And I think it speaks to a lot of what we're seeing in the industry of a lot of larger organizations that are now coming in and acquiring some of the smaller property management companies that are out there. The owners that maybe have 200-300 doors or kind of that 300 to 500 door range, there are now national brands that can make a desirable offer for those, which frankly, when I came into the industry in 2019 and started coaching with RentScale, that was not a conversation that was happening. And that's definitely something that I've seen. 2019 was the last time I was at NARPM. So it was interesting to see just how things have shifted over the last 4 years. And that conversation of the bigger players, and we talked about this in previous lives that we've done around acquisition and how things are shifting. So it was a big one. It was a big theme, and it was something that I think was really important for this year.
Another thing that the smaller companies that were in that 300 door range that were looking to acquire another company maybe in their market that really don't have the check to write for a major company, but picking up those smaller 5, 10, 20, 25 door companies, maybe it's a side business for a real estate office. That has been something that's gaining a lot of traction as well, like how to evaluate those. Typically, when they're coming out of a real estate office, they're not going to have the systems and processes in place like a larger company would. So it's how to evaluate those so that you can grow a little bit slower, but also a little bit more strategically. So that was something that I thought was very interesting for those small to mid-sized companies as well.
All right, I want to jump in about this because property management is a service business, and you can't have a service business without people. There was a lot of discussion around talent and culture. What did you guys hear about either challenges or successes that people were having with culture and their people?
You know, Jeremy, I would say probably most of the people that came through the booth that I had conversations with, when I was asking them what their key takeaways were, this was the number one theme that I was hearing was company culture, retaining employees, and really what are the right moves that owners and management need to be thinking about to ensure that employees are being well cared for. So there are various speakers that were there that were talking on this subject matter. And I think it shows kind of a little bit of the larger trend that we've all experienced over the last few years of what's been going on in the labor pool, the labor market. Even coming out of COVID, there was so much transition that was happening in the marketplace and so many people that were all of a sudden out of a job, new people coming into the property management space. We experienced a massive boom. We were hiring salespeople over the last several years in some meaningful ways of watching these trends. And it's interesting because it's things that we, I think, as a company really believe in. It's something that we know. And it was great to see that conversation starting to be had, that, how your employees think about their jobs, and that mental health element of being taken care of and being able to have connections with upper management, with meaningful conversations and feeling cared for. Well, yeah, there's an investment that you're making there. The long-term play is far greater because this is expensive to handle turnover. And I think companies have really felt the pressure of that, of making a key hire and then watching that person transition 6 to 8 months later and having to go through the whole process again. So that was, I think, to me, just a massive trend. Jen, what did you see on that front?
I think that we're seeing this, I mean, at NARPM certainly, but as we go out and hire BDMs, this was a theme that I saw throughout, and it was that finding business development managers is getting harder and harder, which means that retaining people is going to become more and more important in that culture. I think as we see the baby boomers kind of shift out of the workforce, plus we have lower birth rates and different immigration policies, lots of stuff just happening nationwide. The labor shortage is just going to keep getting a little bit more and more impactful as we go. And so I think, and I've seen in the hiring market, as we're hiring BDMs, things are slowing down a little bit and it's becoming harder. We're having owners who are having to throw out different offers or really appeal to and attract top talent instead of just hoping that top talent's just going to be flooding into you. And that was echoed at the conference. Reese, did you notice anything as you were there?
Yeah, definitely heard a lot of different companies just saying it's been a slow to hire type of environment. But I will say those companies that are really focusing on that culture piece, not when they're hired, but even through the interview process, making the interview something that stands out as well. That's what's attracting top talent, so that they're getting the right people in there to start. So it's just taking that experience even during the hiring process and then showing them what the culture of the company is, so that that top talent is truly attracted, and using different ways to do that. If that's social media with LinkedIn or Facebook, like putting it out there, what kind of company that you truly are, people are going to be attracted to that. And those companies that are embracing the culture right at the hiring process are tending to have a little bit more success in getting the right person in that role a little bit faster.
I think a lot of that means that owners are just going to need to consider the culture of the company that they're creating. And in the past, maybe not as much needed to be invested here. That the culture is just kind of is what it is. Everybody's in doing their jobs. But today, I think the culture of the organization is really going to be the leading indicator of retention. And so any owners, anyone that's watching, if this is something that you're kind of struggling with, you've watched some exits happen, you've lost some key players, it might be time to kind of really take a hard look in the mirror and start asking questions about your culture and what you're doing. And I think that's what I was hearing reflected from a lot of our members, was conversations being had of what can you do to increase retention through meaningful culture activities that you're doing, the ways that you're investing in your employees, lunch and learn opportunities, just those meaningful things that you can do that's really going to keep that engagement of your employees.
All right, so I'm going to jump in and, just completely, give you guys a challenge that we have not discussed in advance. So one of the things that we took away, I reached out to some clients and some friends who were at the conference, and one of our prospects laughingly said, there were 13 virtual assistant companies in the vendor hall. So talk about how things have changed, Jason, since 2019, when there may have been one or two, kind of the OGs, thinking back through what that was like. Now you walk down the conference and, maybe every third, fifth booth is a virtual assistant. Is that where the industry is going? Is it all going to be, global talent? What are you guys' thoughts on where that fits in? What were people talking about? What are you seeing work for our clients when they keep people local versus global? I just love to see your unbridled thoughts on that.
So for me, coming from being in the BDM role and seeing a little bit of this, we had a team of virtual assistants that were located in the Philippines, and it worked extremely well. What I will say is we complemented that by having A-plus talent here locally as well. So it was segmenting what was going to be the best task-oriented, process-oriented is what we had our virtual team doing, and then having our local boots on the ground here that knew the market, were one phone call away so that they could get in touch with somebody about their property and handle situations a little bit faster. We saw the combination of having task-oriented global workforce to be very, very, very successful, but also having those people in place here. And that combination is what got us really the best outcomes. We couldn't have really outsourced everything. We also didn't want the high labor cost of having everybody here doing those task-oriented roles. So it worked out well, having a balance of both.
I'll speak specifically from my experience, especially when it comes to the business development manager role. I have tried virtual remote team members from a lot of different areas. And I've also had a ton of business development managers, boots on the ground on the streets in the city that you're in. And I'll tell you, in that particular role, there's really nothing that substitutes the boots on the ground, the people that are there networking in person. But even when I think about like an inside salesperson and having them be a remote team member or a virtual team member, I think that those people weren't nearly as effective because they didn't have that local touch and that local reference. So I still believe that for the business development manager position, boots on the ground is the best way to go for a lot of different reasons. However, I think that because of the workforce and what we're seeing, we are going to experience a necessary shift for those task-oriented roles to shift potentially to virtual and offshore.
I think a lot of this is going to come down to competitive advantage that each company is going to need to be looking at. We were talking about earlier with this flavor of acquisition that's happening, and a lot of these nationwide brands that are coming in and buying up a lot of the smaller property management companies. To be competitive against that is all going to come down to scalability, which is obviously something that we care deeply here about at RentScale. And each owner is going to have to begin asking themselves some hard questions of how do I scale in such a way to remain competitive? One of the advantages of having remote team members is often that speed to lead, that speed to interaction, the customer experience. One of the things that we saw happen in other industries where you started to see nationwide brands, let's talk about things like Amazon coming in, looking at things like Netflix that kind of completely changed the game. They were able to do that because of scalability around customer experience. And that was difficult for smaller organizations to be able to scale along with. So for owners that are going to continue to remain competitive, they've got to continue to think through what's going to be the scalable customer experience that is going to be able to maintain what's happening with people that have the money to spend. Now, one of the disadvantages of these nationwide brands is they don't have boots on the ground. They can't provide that meaningful face-to-face customer experience that so many people desire when it comes to choosing the property manager that they want to work with. And yet we know that when it comes to phone and it comes to technology, those are things that you can outsource to remote team members and be able to really maintain a high level of excellence to that customer experience. So it's going to be an interesting kind of landscape for each owner to navigate how they can start getting access to new technologies, new scalability, while remaining competitive with a very quickly changing market with some of these larger money-backed, investor-backed brands that are coming online.
Yeah, okay, that's a great transition, Jay. So let's talk about the vendor hall. I mean, one thing that we realized is that vendors are a huge part of a NARPM national conference. And I think, Jason, you and I even came from different industries where people came for the education and they shunned the vendors and they would run by the booths as fast as they could and not make eye contact so they didn't have to talk to anybody. What we've been told over and over again, I think everybody on this call can relate to that, is a lot of people come to these conferences and they're like, yeah, the content's okay. I'm not going to go to that. I'm just here to meet my next pet screening. I'm here to meet my next second nature. I'm here to meet my next property melt, whatever I need to do to move my business forward. And the vendors are a huge part of this. And obviously, we're a vendor, we're in the vendor hall, so that's where we spend most of our time. So we may be biased, but that's also when I reached out to some of our clients and our friends, they were saying, hey, the vendors show up in a different way. So I want to transition to that, but I'm just going to give one quick highlight because Jason, you just teed us up, and Reese, you came over to me. We had some neighbors to the right of us at the vendor hall. Do you remember Logan, Virtually Incredible? Just let's not go too deep in it. Let's give this guy a commercial, right? Like what was it that you were excited about, and what's a no-brainer outsourcing that we can be doing for all of our clients?
Yeah, and it was just ironic that he was right next to us, but I saw on his banner behind his booth that said new owner hotline that's dedicated only to your new owners and those ones that are calling in. And I was just like, wow, that fills the gap when we talk about remote workforce and boots on the ground, having a blend of that. So they have a phone number that's totally dedicated to new owners. So if your BDM can't pick up the phone after hours, on the weekends, or even when they're out at an on-site onboarding a new property, they have a dedicated line that will route to that person. They know how to keep that person in your next prospect engaged. And if you're able to pick up the phone, they'll transfer it over to you. But if you're not, they'll take all the detailed information so that as soon as you get done with that on-site or get back to where you can call that next prospect, it's there and ready to go for you. So it's that blend, right? So somebody's calling in, they wanted somebody to answer the phone. So having someone there that's a virtual assistant, global workforce to be able to do that for you, it's a great way to fill the gap and make sure that your next customer is getting the experience from that first phone call.
It was great. It just seemed so perfect. It was a very inexpensive overflow. And I think that it's really important to bring up that we always tell our clients is answering the phone and bridging the gap for 30 minutes is different than handing it over to a virtual assistant to actually go out there and meet people and generate that business. That's a tall order. It's heavy to ask somebody out of the market, somebody who doesn't even have any local knowledge, doesn't understand the market, how to sell an owner. But it's not a heavy ask to ask someone to rock through a script and be genuinely interested in somebody's property and ask them questions about what they're looking for, and then call your BDM and basically say, hey, this person's really interested. They're really a quality client. Let's get them on the phone right away. And maybe that one phone call will prevent them from going back to Google and calling 3 of your competitors, right? Could be that simple for, $100 a month or something like that. So the vendors were obviously interesting to me. Things I want to talk about is just, how the vendors showed up, what we're doing for the industry. The parties obviously were amazing. Shout out to Jen on our team for creating an amazing dinner over at Ted Turner's restaurant. We had some amazing buffalo steak, and just happened to be that Ted Turner was at a table next to us. So it was dinner and a show. We actually got to see Ted Turner, which was really cool. And there's some great conversations at that table where somebody was basically saying, hey, I've got this problem. And I heard somebody else say, hey, that's exactly what we're focused on in this business right now. It was really cool just to kind of facilitate that masterminding conversation. We had people come up to us and say, I had to come to your booth because I had dinner with somebody last night and they said you changed their business. I know we're one of 90 vendors. I bet you that happened 100 times during that conference, right? Just meeting with people and saying, hey, you need to go there. You need to go see that. We know that, there's basically a concept that I think I learned back in the 90s. And as companies scale, there's this general concept to completely own your competitive advantage, go all in, don't mess with it, own your competitive advantage and outsource everything else. If it's not materially different to make you better than the next guy or girl, you should outsource it. You should drive the cost down. You should reserve the investment for the things that only you can do that are going to make your business amazing. And as I walk through that hall and I think about, Property Meld and obviously Lead Simple and a million other vendors that I can't even bring up, PestShare, thank you for the orange shoes, by the way, which are absolutely hilarious. And I can't walk around my neighborhood without being stopped 10 times about where I got these bright orange shoes. But it really is, property management to me really is a business that is just comprised of building blocks. And the vendors are your building blocks. And you can kind of put them together. And it allows you to strategically invest your time, your money, and your people on the things that only you can do. So team, I'd love to hear from you guys. We got a lot of vendors and friends in the industry. Who are our clients not thinking about enough? Who should they be looking up to and calling? Besides RentScale, of course. We all know that's the answer. But who else should they be calling to move, because we've got some amazing partners in this industry, and I think that's why people come to this show. So what would you guys say? Who's a must meet that they didn't know about before?
I'll say, first of all, I think that we need to highlight that Jason won the Thrill of the Grill. So we were the top vendor out there. So we had a steak cooking competition, and the Golden Spatula came home to RentScale. I want to make sure that that doesn't go unnoticed. But what vendor I think was, when I was back in the role and still seeing it today, and it's constantly being elevated, with Second Nature. They put on one heck of an experience there at the conference, but it's also a heck of an experience that the residents and the properties that we're managing are also getting, and they're constantly looking to elevate what they're doing. So it's a company that's going to move the industry forward, driving experience through our residents, while also creating a profitable situation for the property management company as well.
I want to give a bit of a shout out to Lead Simple. I know a lot of our people watching are probably using Lead Simple in some way, shape, or form, but we've been connected with Lead Simple since our inception in 2018. And I got to say, again, not seeing kind of their booth presence over the last 4 years, the last NARPM event I was at was in Phoenix. And I think Lead Simple had maybe sent one, maybe two of their people to the event. And I'm pretty sure it was their engineers. It wasn't even salespeople that were at the event. To today, or this last conference, I think they had over 15 employees that were there. They had 2 booths. They have absolutely leveled up their experience of what they're doing. I think a lot of people that maybe have been sleeping on Lead Simple, they haven't really understood all of the ways that they're growing with their API integrations, with the way the technology is working with so many things. It's so much more than it was. So if you haven't used Lead Simple actively, or if you're not, you just think it's your sales CRM and you're not really engaged with what's happening, you're missing out on some incredible opportunities. Because to your point, Jeremy, this industry really is almost like, as a company, you're almost as good as your vendors are, because you can't do this thing alone. Nobody can run an effective property management organization without the right partnerships for success. So if you're limiting in your ability to grow and find that success, one of the things you need to look at is your tech stack, your vendor relationships, your partnerships. Because if you're not optimizing those, you're missing out. The top companies that we see time and again, they know and work the relationships and partnerships they have with their vendors to get the most out of them. That's what we expect from our clients, that they're using us in that way. And so we would hope that you're using your other vendors in the same way to make you better and to level up your game in the business.
I'll second that, Jason. I think the vendors are not only bringing the fun and the energy, but they're bringing some fantastic ideas that really do take property management to the next level. I've seen this industry level up 10x in the 5 years that I've been in it. And it's absolutely incredible what companies are doing today. It's like we're coming into this century, catching up with all the other industries. And I really think a lot of that is because of the entrepreneurial spirit of the owners of property management companies, but also all of the different visions that the vendors have and the energy and excitement that they're bringing to those visions. So if you're not utilizing your vendors, I feel like you're going to start falling behind, only because there are so many people out there leveraging the vendors, and it's important to keep you kind of up with the competition and pacing ahead of a lot of other people. My shout out has to go to, first of all, I know we said pest share, but I just want to comment, those orange shoes are everywhere, right? And I don't know if anyone is listening from Pest Share, but I'm waiting for my pair. And I'm promised that there'll be a broker owner, but I just have to shout that out because it just like the purple suits from Second Nature, it's really brought a different element that stands out, and you see a lot of people walking around. So they're doing something right there. But also Profit Coach. I'm always just floored every time I talk to Danny. His mind works so differently than most other people that I know. And the way that he helps property management companies level up, it's unlike anything else I've seen.
I have a feeling your mind just changes around the 11th or the 12th kid. I think that's what Danny's on. I'm not really sure, but I think that you just start thinking differently.
That might be it. That might be
yeah.
it. That's why I'm not doing that. I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, that's fair. Well, he's raising a village. So you're raising a village, you just have to think differently. And we do love Danny. He's amazing. Jen, just briefly, because we get asked this all the time, and I know that you spend a lot of time at the conference around this, and we've got 2 or 3 vendors that really help with marketing and lead gen. And everybody always says, I just got to grow, and it starts with leads. We don't always agree with that, but we also agree that everybody should have good marketing. So who are some of the vendors that you spent time with specifically focused on that?
I mean, I've got 2 very clear favorites. And so the first is 4.5. They're just doing an awesome job over there. We've worked with them on new customer machine with several clients, and the way that they're executing and just at a high level and just kind of changing some of the processes that they had to grow, be better. I'm just really impressed with everything that they're doing over there. So many great people, but also some really great visionary ideas. And then the second one is obviously one that everybody I feel like knows, and that is PMW. They're doing the same thing. Like, they've got some really cool tools that you can now implement into your websites and onto your landing pages. They are working very closely with us to generate those leads. And I've just been so impressed with a lot of the things that they're doing over there to kind of level up for their clients as well.
Yeah, I enjoyed my time with both of those guys. We've worked with them for years. Also, shout out to Upkeep Media. They're more on the natural organic SEO. So we work with them less than on some of our other lead gen campaigns. Also phenomenal people. We always recommend work with people that know your industry. This is why RentScale exists. This is why those companies exist. Like, you don't have to spend the first 2 weeks of your relationship explaining what it is that you do and who your clients are. It's just amazing about the vendors. All right, so I want to transition, but before I do that, Reese, you brought up something several times to me at this conference, and I feel like I got to give you the platform. There was one company that was a category of 1. They've got some competitors I've heard about, but apparently they weren't there. Who's the only company representing a category that you were blown away by?
Well, shockingly, it was RentScale. That's really, it was odd. I was walking around, and want to connect with other vendors in our same space to see kind of what's going on and what they're seeing as well. But there was no one to be found. So it's really interesting. We want to bring as much about the industry and push all of our clients forward, both current and future. And to be at these events and involved in the parties and talking to clients that have been with us before and how it's helped them, and then talking to future clients and what their needs are, it was really eye-opening to see that we're the only one in that space. And I can say from experience too, that, we hired RentScale twice, and it was transformational for our business when we were in the property management space. So it was pretty clear that being involved in the community and knowing what's happening in a changing industry has really, really helped us being able to deliver the right message to our current future clients.
Okay, that was a shameless plug. Please forgive us. I try to keep it journalistically separated from what we're doing to what we're doing. But Reese, you kept bringing that up, and I was like, all right, I got to say something, which is great. Because and that is a great transition to one of the last questions I want to ask you guys, which is, we do our personal and professional best every week. And I shared my personal best was all the fun we had at Nationals, which is, maybe I'm a workaholic. Maybe I just have a ton of friends in the industry. I loved it. There were so many parties. Helicopters flying in and out, golden spatulas, steak tastings, just tons of great stuff. And by the way, Atlanta is really a hidden gem in the US. It's easy to think about. Most of us think of Atlanta as a Delta hub. Sorry, Todd, but that's just how I've always thought about Atlanta. But it is a beautiful city. And I think all of us agreed. We had so much fun. We loved being downtown. Kudos to you, NARPM. You threw a great conference, a great party. But let's talk about your personal favorite. Let's talk about fun. We had a lot of fun when we were at Nationals. So I just want to hear from you guys. What was your highlight? What was the most fun? And what did anyone who not go miss out on that they will totally regret after hearing this?
For me, I've known Jason since 2019. He was my coach as an inexperienced BDM coming in new with no experience. and we've worked together now for some time. And we actually got to meet for the very first time in person in Atlanta. We only argued one time, and all it was about was who was going to be Little Spoon and who was going to be Big Spoon. Other than that, we got along great. So it was a great time, and I enjoyed, getting to bond with Jason and get some insight in person. So it was cool.
Absolutely. I got to follow that up. That's one of the best things about kind of getting into these places is we get off of the screen, we get to be in person, we get to interact and engage, which is awesome. I have to say though, Jeremy, kind of probably one of my greatest prides and joys was being able to take away this golden spatula from Mr. Ray Hespen at Property Meld. Guys, if you haven't followed along, the Thrill of the Grill has been an event that has been going on since 2019. RentScale and Lead Simple launched it, and we brought together the top vendors to really show off who has the best grilling skills. Everybody gets the same Weber grill. You've got to use traditional charcoal. Everyone gets the same cut of meat, but it's been quite controversial over the years because Ray's technique of grilling includes water and boiling meat inside of a plastic bag that some people like to call sous vide. And this year, Lead Simple took the reins of this event and they ran it, executed it beautifully. They did such a wonderful job, including putting some parameters that limited Ray and his sous vide ways. So it was, for the first time, a across the board, even competition. And let's just say, at the end of the day, the best meat won. And that was definitely our little piece of steak. So very, very proud to be bringing this home.
Well done,
Jason, Thrill of the Grill was definitely a highlight, I will say. But you know me, I'm all about my food. The mac and cheese, the barbecue. Yes, Bryn, thank you very much. Lizzie, that was amazing. However, I'm still I can't stop thinking about breakfast. I mean, guys, I had a waffle, then a piece of fried chicken, then a waffle, and then it was topped with peach cobbler and about 2 tablespoons of butter and then syrup. The Atlanta Breakfast Club was one of my favorite things. That was great. I had a good time there.
Yes, Atlanta Breakfast Club definitely took 10 years off of my life, and I would not trade it for anything. It was absolutely amazing. My my French toast folded tacos, my egg and bacon tacos folded in a French toast taco was absolutely amazing. And I was loving your fried chicken as well. All right, so I want to wrap it up. Thank you guys so much for sharing this. One of the big thrusts of the event was to get more women involved. And so I've been watching, and we're trying to get more women involved in broker owner and speakers. I was blown away by how many women were at National and that are in this business. When I think about our client roster and I think about the BDMs that we hire, it's so women heavy. In fact, by the way, total side note, somebody walked up to the booth and they said, "Hey, do you know what it takes to be a good BDM?" And I was like, "Of course, we've hired hundreds of BDMs." And they're like, "Tell me what it is." And I was like, "I got some thoughts." And she's like, and all she asked was, she's like, "Is it male or female?" And I was like, we don't really slice and dice it that way. But that's all she wanted to know. She was like, "I just want to know if male or females are better at BDM." But we're trying to get more speakers involved. I know our good friends are out there. You know, Kelly hosted a women's event. Kelly Segreto, if you don't know her, she's a new consultant in the industry who's sponsored. She was a couple booths away from us. She's hosting it. My good friend Nicole is trying to get more people to be women speakers. We might get Jen in there. Who knows? It's something we're talking about. But in general, I just got to say, from 2019, Jason, we were there to now, I mean, it's a very even crowd. It's everywhere. So, parting shots on that. I mean, the community seems to be getting more diverse and more involved. What are your thoughts on that as we kind of move into broker owner? Because I know that's a big shift for NARPM.
I'm excited to see participation from just everybody. I mean, I think that there is a lot of diversity coming into the industry overall, but I'm just really excited to see the enthusiasm and participation from women and men and different cultures and backgrounds. And I think that brings unique perspectives, different ideas, and I'm all about it. So I certainly saw more women at the conference than I think I ever have, but I think I also just saw more diversity in general.
All right, the men are very nervous about commenting on the women, which I totally appreciate. No problem. Guys, thank you for being here. Any parting shots? I mean, if somebody's thinking about going to a NARPM event, a state conference, a national conference, broker owner, I mean, what are your thoughts? Like, is it worth it?
It's absolutely worth it to just network with an awesome community in the property management space to generate ideas on what's working, what's not working, and have somebody to lean on when you have those struggles going through this business. Because we all know property management space is not a magic carpet ride. It does have its ups and downs. So to have a community that can back you and give you some solutions and have them all in one place is extremely powerful and can really put the roadmap out there for you so that you can get to those long-term goals that you're looking to do inside of your business.
Guys, thanks for being here. Thanks for sharing everything. It's so fun to hang out in person with all of our clients and everybody last week. Thanks, guys. Hope to see you at the next conference. All right, guys. Last closing thoughts I have from my notes that we didn't go over is as I was leaving, I'm all packed up. We're leaving this conference, which was amazing. And somebody basically said, hey, are you going to the IMN conference? I don't know if you guys know, there's another industry that has a ton of conferences. I said, no, we're pretty much done for the year, except for our big conference that we're having. And I said, what is it like? And it was really, and I won't mention any names, you know who you are that said this to me, but it was very eye-opening and really cemented what's so great about NARPM events. And she said, you know, you come to an NARPM event, everybody says, here's what I know, here's what I don't know. I'm trying to do this. Can you help me? You walk into an IMN event or any other conference. I don't want to bully IMN or pick them out, but I've seen this at other conferences. Everybody shows up. They know everything. They have no problems. They just came to a conference to teach everybody else. Everybody is better than you. And nobody really has an open mind about how they can get better. What's amazing about the NARPM community is just sharing. And people, we have so many clients that are literally, you know, overlap competitors that are happy to share what they know with somebody else. The NARPM community is just absolutely amazing to me, and how everybody wants to help everybody else. Everybody wants to be an open mind, say, how can I get better? What vendor can help me? How do I help my clients better? It's just an absolutely fantastic way to not only build a business, but in my opinion, to live a life and to get better and to just constantly be leveling up and knowing that we're here to serve a specific client and we want to do everything we can to be the best at it. So that's my final takeaways from NARPM. Had such a great time. It was so good to see you guys. I had so much fun. So I hope you found that conversation helpful. We'd love to hear what you have to add. So please comment below about what you're seeing. I want to give you my closing thoughts on what I've learned the last couple of weeks at 2 national conferences. But first, I just want to share these messages from our sponsor. This episode is brought to you by Strategic PM, the magazine for property management entrepreneurs and executives. If you go online to strategicpm.com today, you're going to find an entire website full of content written about your industry and by your peers. And it's completely free to sign up. Just go ahead and click on the create a free account right in the upper right-hand corner. When you click on that, not only can you create a digital account, but you can actually add your mailing address and we will send you a free 1-year subscription of the print magazine, which will be showing up in your offices every single quarter. So if you take a look inside the magazine, what you're gonna see is that we are focused on growth. We've got 5 pillars of Strategic PM: vision, strategy, culture, marketing, and experience. You're gonna be seeing some great high-class content from some of the best thought leaders in the industry talking about the matters that matter the most to your business. So sign up for free today at strategicpm.com and look for the magazine in your office. All right, guys, thanks for watching this episode. I want to end by going through a calendar for the rest of the year. Here we are, clearly moving into the 4th quarter. Holidays are starting. It's a fantastic time to wind down, but we still have a lot of really exciting stuff coming up. So first thing I want to talk about is you could be missing $195,216 in profit annually. Yes, you heard that right. $195,216 is a very specific number that I have not vetted out, but our good friends at Profit Coach have proven that out. Now, that's definitely a down payment on potentially a 1-bedroom condo rental property in South Florida these days, the way that real estate prices are going. But I want to show you how you can actually be making that in profit in your property management company next year. So our friends at Profit Coach are hosting an amazing educational series next month. And I've got it on the screen and I want to walk you guys through it because we're a big part of it. So November 1st, 8th, and 15th. And we're going to drop in the link below in the chat so you guys have it. They're actually hosting a 3-part webinar series. And let's just zoom in and take a look at these. This is amazing. So I just want to first comment on how handsome and good looking everybody is on the speakers note. Now, I don't know if they actually intended for that to happen, but I can't help but comment on it. So obviously Danny, being the leader, creating this whole thing, he invited his good friends. We love Ray from Property Meld and Thad from Second Nature. Got Jordan from Lead Simple. There's this handsome gent from RentScale that I won't mention, and a ton of our good clients and friends from the industry. And we're all getting together to help you guys essentially make next year the best year ever. We want to operationalize profit. We talked about that all the time here at RentScale. How do you actually create systems to create predictable outcomes? And I love that about our friends at both Lead Simple and Profit Coach. And so Danny is really creating an amazing webinar series for you guys that you can sign up for below. So we're going to drop in the link. We're going to be talking about this a lot over November. I actually think this is going to be what everybody's talking about this week in PM all through November, because there are going to be some absolutely amazing sessions. So here's what we have. It's 3 different sessions. So we're going to talk about efficiency, growth, and experience. I am clearly headlining growth, which I'm very excited about, on the 15th. So it's November 1st, 8th, and 15th. Again, we're going to drop the link below. You have to sign up for this. It's gonna be amazing. Now, not to be outdone, and if you still have an appetite to show up in person and book one more plane ticket and go somewhere one more time in 2023 before the year ends, you guys know about our event that we have every single year in December, Sales Mastery Live. So we only have 70 spots. I think we're halfway sold out. It's gonna definitely sell out. We still have our early bird discount until November 1st. Sales Mastery Live is December 4th in Austin, and love to actually show you what that would look like. So I'm gonna actually share my screen and walk you through what this looks like. So we have an all-day event. If you're curious what it is, just go to salesmastery.live. We've got videos from previous events. We've been hosting this in South Florida the last couple of years. We're in Austin on a Monday, which means you can fly in for the whole weekend and just hang out on Saturday and Sunday. Joe Rogan's got his new comedy club there. If you don't know about Austin, it is a barbecue capital. It's amazing. They have all kinds of comedy and live shows. We've rented out this amazing building where we'll basically have the whole top 2 floors, inside, outside, and we're basically going to spend the whole day on what we call the Outbound Conference. The Allbound Conference. Allbound includes inbound, outbound, and nextbound. So inbound is all the ways people find you. They call you to do business with you. Outbound is how you find them. And then, of course, there is nextbound, and that is who knows your next client. So if you're into referrals and you're into building a network and a relationship, that's what nextbound is all about. So allbound is inbound, outbound, nextbound. We have an amazing event. It's December 4th in Austin, Texas. The weather should be great. And we've purposely designed this to basically match our good friends over at Lead Simple, and they are essentially having their own event called Lead Simple University. Sold out, so if you didn't sign up, I apologize, but if you are going there, we'd love for you to extend the trip. Their event is Tuesday to Friday. Our event is Monday. So that's the calendar that we know about for the rest of the year. So comment below if you know about a killer property management event that we're not talking about. I want to bring you all of the great events that we know about. I know we're getting close to the end of the year and we're going to start getting into conference season for next year, but let us know. And we always want to keep you up to date. And I hope I get to meet you shake your hand, hug you, high five you, whatever you're into at the next event. Think about coming to Sales Mastery and definitely sign up for the Profit Coach Operationalizing Profit series that's coming up. Well, that's it for us this week. Thanks for joining and learning about the latest tips and trends from the top residential property managers in North America. Please be sure to join us every time. We go live every other Thursday. You can find us on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn, and whatever they call Twitter these days. Just search for Strategic PM. Check out all the latest going on in property management and get details and show notes about this on strategicpm.com. If you have any questions about RentScale, please email our team at biz, that's B-I-Z, at rentscale.com. We'll see you next time. That's what's happening this week in PM.